Variety. A lot of our students come in, obviously they're coming in because their substance use has impacted their life. It's usually school that they're not attending regularly. Things at home are not going quite so well. But oftentimes they're coming in with mental health issues that may or may not have already been addressed. Some of them have body issues, self-esteem issues, learning disabilities, psychiatric issues as well. So they're really coming in with a lot of issues and concerns that are able to get addressed while they're at the program.
And how do you, as a CYC, how do you address those issues?
Well, I think it's working. I have the opportunity and fortunate opportunity of working with my kids day in, day out, Monday to Friday. Our students usually stay 4 to 6 months, so you really get a good chunk of time to do some work with them. And again, like I said, initially, the work is around the substance use issue in regards to their use, but it really starts around strategy. So what is it that they're doing in terms of trying to make some changes with their substance use? And we work with a harm reduction model and really pulling the rewards. So what are the positives that are happening when they're starting to decrease their use, when they're starting to eliminate their use? And that's when you really start to look at some of the self-esteem issues. That's when you start to look at the family issues and what was life like before they started to use. And oftentimes you find out it's really coping. It's a coping mechanism for them, in terms of feeling depressed, feeling sad, feeling misplaced, left out. So it's really substituting those strategies in there. So you really have that time to do that. And we have a consulting psychiatrist that does work with our students when there's major concerns in terms of a mental health issue. And of course, being in the hospital, the great piece is that there's a wonderful health component. So there's a nurse and a doctor that's attached to our program. And they really, really advocate for the kids in terms of health issues, but really do a great job with having our kids feel safe and being able to trust a medical person and really addressing those issues.
So how important is relationship in your work?
It's key. It's key. I think the trust piece is important. It's a fine balance with, when students are coming in. Our program is very structured, and, I'm a firm believer with really sticking to the structure and expectations with the students. And to balance that out is really tricky because oftentimes, as a CYW, we talk about setting limits and following through and how we manage that. But on the flip side, you got to work with these kids and they've got to be able to come to you and trust you and be able to bring issues to you that you can assist them with. So it's very difficult. It's a fine balance, which is something that over time, I still work at. When we get new kids, it's new personalities that you really try to work with. I think there's a lot more opportunity from when I graduated from school. I think the big piece is diversifying yourself in terms of the field. And there continues to be so much opportunity for child and youth workers. I guess taking more risks, because oftentimes we think, a group home setting, is going to be, you're going to have these type kids. So there's that element of fear piece, so really working against that and taking those risks and taking those opportunities, which I think I've done in the latter part of my career, but that initial piece where you want to be, say, in a school or in a safe, consistent place. So really challenging myself in terms of taking on those risks.
Great. Anything else?
That was perfect.
Perfect.
Was it?
Yeah, perfect.
Does that make any sense at all?
Okay. My name is Carlos, aka Leaf. It's spelled Carlos, and Leaf is spelled Leif.
Nancy Began, Nancy Begin.
So I want to ask, how did you two meet?
Well, I'm a child and youth worker, and I was the child and youth worker at Leaf's elementary school, working there. And at that time, he was in grade 4. He was 8 years old, right? I think you were 8.
Yeah, I was about 8 years old.
And I think it was the principal asked me to see Leaf because he was having some problems at recess with some other kids, and he was also looking quite sad and angry, and just had a feeling that something was going on with him that just wasn't quite right. So that was the first time we met. And I did start working with him at the school, and I actually still have some of the stuff that we did back then. But so that's how we met, and that's how I got involved with him. basically.
And yeah, I guess from my point of view, I was really young at the time. I was 8 years old, and I was exhibiting a lot of behavior problems. I can say that now because I'm a lot older now, and I know my stuff, right? But yeah, I was going through a lot in my life, and it's and then I was just told that I was going to be meeting up with a I guess it was a teacher at the time. I didn't know the difference, right? And I met Miss Began, and we did a lot of activities and group works, and I used to love them. I used to love the activities. It took me away from my life, and I used to really look forward to seeing Miss Began, and after that, I guess I was kind of acting out in school, in classes, just because of what was going on with my life, and I began seeing her sort of one-on-one. And I always say that when I was seeing her one-on-one, I kind of opened up to her because she was able to establish a trust between our relationship, that the kind of that dynamic, and I began opening up. I began like telling her what was happening with me, what was going on, and from what I know now, that's cause for alarm. I was going through a lot of abuse, and when you do suspect abuse, we have as professionals a duty to report, and she did just that, right? She was able to communicate that to the principal, and the principal communicated that to the Children's Aid Society as procedure, and the Children's Aid Society did a full investigation on my home, and then from there they decided that it would be best for that child, in particular, it was me, for me to be removed from the home, for the best of that child, right?
Yeah.
So
that's
then
what
you
happened.
became a Crown Ward and started a series of foster homes, I guess. And then my job in the board is I'm not always in the same school. So after a couple of years, I was moved out of that school, and I lost touch with Leaf a little bit. Wasn't really sure where he was or what was going on. And then I started to work in secondary school, and one day I went out to where the guidance office is, and guess who was sitting there? And I was so happy to see you. I remember I was just, and you looked at me like, Miss Began, you're here, and we just hugged, and then that whole time period, and then Leaf you continued to have some problems there, and in the community, and that you started having some problems, and then you stopped coming to my school. But it's really quite amazing because you still come to see me, and this is like, you're 27 now, and we were talking about it before that, it's like since grade 4, I guess. You can comment more on this, Leaf, if you want, but I guess I've been the only consistent person in his life since grade 4. There's been other people coming in and out, but Leaf, I may not hear from you for 3 or 4 months, and then all of a sudden you'll be there again, and it's like, okay, come on in, what's happening now, and trying to help you make good decisions about yourself and build up your self-esteem, and think about your choices and all of that kind of stuff. And I guess no matter what you've done, really, I'm still there. And sometimes I tell you, I think you're making a mistake, or you're doing the wrong thing, or whatever. But the relationship has continued on, and it's actually quite amazing, because I don't think we really hear about that too often. Where I see kids that I've worked with. I've been a child and youth worker since 1974. That's a lot of years and a lot of kids. And I still see some kids that come back to see me that are adults, but with you, it's been so consistent. And sometimes when I don't hear from you, I worry and think, are you okay? Are you on the street? Where are you? What's going on? But then you resurface, and we reconnect, and then we kind of build you back up again and send you back out, and now you're in this program, which I'm so proud of. And yeah.
I would say that she was that one person in my life that I can always count on and trust, regardless of where I was, what I was doing, who I've met in my life. She already had a foundation with me, and I think that's what I needed in my life that was sort of changing all the time, you know. She provided me with exactly what I needed to hear to rebuild my own self, because I knew that I was strong to handle my world, but at times I was sort of like defeated. I felt defeated, you know, and there was only one person I can go to help me kick back into gear, you know, and that was her. It was Miss Beacon, you know.
He still calls me Miss Began. He's
Yeah.
never once called me by my first name, which is so cute, really. Because I mean, I still see him as this cute little boy that just, yeah.
It's cute, but it also tells us something.
From my point of view, I see my role as being so many different things. I see my role as being almost nurturing, like a mothering kind of role. I see my role as being helpful with concrete things, like if Leaf comes and he has no food, give him a food voucher. If he needs a bus ticket, like the concrete things. I just recently wrote a letter for him to try and help him get access to his daughter. I wrote a letter for the court. So I see my role as being very different. Okay, in terms of education, what are you doing? And you know, writing a letter or supporting you coming into this program. So over the years, I've seen my role being different, like different aspects of my role. So we're not peers, we're not friends, but I think I've been different people to you. And when I'm worried about you, I tell you. If I think you're making a wrong decision, I tell you. So I see my role as being very different in so many different ways, but still accepting, and no matter what mistakes you made or what faults you have, that I guess almost like a parent would do, you know, just keep going and never give up and build up self-esteem. And I've always felt through my years as a child and youth worker that if each student that I work with, and I've worked in residential treatment, day treatment, preschool day treatment, I've worked in many different agencies. I've been with the school board since 1987, and I've always felt that if every student I work with has at least one person in their life, just takes one person that they know that they can trust and count on, I think it makes a huge difference. And I think that's what I try to do in my work, and I think that's one of the reasons why students come back, because they see me as, even if they've messed up and they've been suspended and they're in trouble, I'm still there. I don't condone a lot of that behavior, but I'm still there and accepting it. So I see my role as being so many different roles, I guess, within being the child and youth worker. I don't know what you think about that, Leaf, but
I think that's absolutely right. I think that I had a clear understanding of what kind of person Miss Beacon was to me. I knew that she was there to help me and to help me guide me on my way, you know, because I had, you know, I guess a special awareness that I had a way. I just had to figure it out, and I couldn't do it on my own. I needed help, and Miss Beacon was always there to help me. It was proof that you know, that there was hope in this world, you know, that I could, if there was a way, I could find it. And you know, if I was ever stuck, you know, she can help me kind of get back on that track. There really wasn't anyone else like that in my life that can provide me with that. My own step-parents, they didn't care. My guardians, they don't understand. My teachers, you know, they don't know the angle of where I'm coming from. A lot of people, even my friends, don't, you know. I for one am from the Children's Aid Society. I grew up in foster homes and group homes. You know, all I know is kind of surviving. You know, all I know is that, and you know, like Miss Beacon was the one that cared. You know, she genuinely cared. You know, and that's what I didn't see a lot of. You know, in that world. And I think particularly for any child in that situation, I think someone who cares is really, really powerful, you know. It wasn't something that I needed to think about, you know. It was something that I felt, and I knew that, you know, it's what I needed, and she was able to provide me with that, you know, because she does care. I know it. You know what I mean? I could just tell, right? and it's good. I'm glad to have that. I consider that a blessing in my life, you know. So it came to a point where it was necessary for me to speak about my problems in order to find a solution to them. And so because of that trust, I was able to talk about everything, anything that I had inside of me that was bothering me. I was able to talk to her about it, and she was able to hear me and listen to me, and provide me with like some sort of options. How we were talking about, she didn't give me answers, but she gave me options of what I can do, you know. And from her point of view, because I knew that she cared, she wanted the best for me, you know. And so I would make decisions based on these options and really think about them, and then I'd go out and do them, and I'd find positive results, you know. And it was a continuation of these positive results that led me to keep coming back, you know. It was just I guess that was just evidence to me that like this person is good, you know. I can trust her, you know, and that she's sort of become like this kind of addition to my life, like sort of like this kind of power in my corner to help me make good decisions, because I know that in the lifestyle I was living, there are others like me, but perhaps they don't have that kind of person in life. So I recognized her as sort of like a guardian angel, you know, someone who can to look out for me, you know, help me make good decisions, because everyone else was making bad decisions. I can't follow them. I have to follow something. I had to follow me. I had to follow something that can make me kind of go in a good path, you know. And Miss Beacon was that person.
And that's a pretty powerful description.
It's a journey, first of all. I mean, when I first met Leaf, he was a little boy, and he was hurt, and he felt rejected, and he didn't really have any self-esteem, and
I had no self-esteem whatsoever.
yeah,
I was really down. I was really bad.
I think throughout the years, and you know, it depends on, okay, one of the drawbacks of my job right now is I have a student referred to me in grade 9, and I work with that student from grade 9 to grade 12 for 4 years. And then they graduate. And then it's like, you know, I worry about, you know, I try to make sure they have support in the community or whatever, because when you have that kind of intensive support, it's hard because you have to build the relationship in order to be effective, I think. And then the school part of it comes to the end, and then what happens with that after, you know. And so it is, that part of the job I think is really hard, especially because, I mean, historically and traditionally, child and youth workers were in treatment. We weren't in schools back in the early 70s. That was very, very new for child and youth workers to be in an educational setting. So it's always been a struggle to, how do we do our work in an educational setting where really the goal is to help students graduate. The goal isn't to, you know, treat their depression or their anxiety or whatever it is. The goal is to help them with their personal issues so that they can do their academics, so that they can graduate. So, and I think for child and youth workers, that's been a hard adjustment to make, because traditionally we come from treatment. I worked in treatment for years before I came to the school board. So in treatment, it's a whole different focus. So when someone like Leaf comes along and the problems, you know, there's different degrees of problems that kids have in school, and there's the academic, the learning problems, and there's all the social, emotional kinds of problems. And then when there's an upheaval in the home, that's a whole other situation. So for somebody like Leaf, trying to cope with all that stuff kind of out there and trying to be a student in the school was really hard. And so over the years, you know, he's not a little boy anymore. You're an adult, you're a young adult that still struggles with some of those little boy issues sometimes, you know, around like self-esteem and that. So it is hard. It's hard to make that, because I don't think it's beneficial for Leaf if I do everything for him. Why I can't do that. That's not teaching him the skills to go out and do it for himself, and to be aware of his strengths and his weaknesses and how to make changes, and that you always have a choice. And I think my whole basis of work is around self-esteem, and if you can build up self-esteem, that will help make better choices. if you have low self-esteem and you've been rejected by your family and you don't really feel like you belong anywhere, you're going to look somewhere else to be accepted. And sometimes those choices aren't the best ones. So it is hard. It's hard to still kind of be that person, but help him make choices as a young adult. He's not an 8-year-old boy anymore, but it's been a struggle too. It's an ongoing journey to get past those feelings of when you were 8 years old and now you're a young adult. And so it's like, how do I separate those things? And it's hard. It is hard to do that, because if he, as long as I'm there, I will never say, oh, Leaf, I don't want to see you. I would never do that. But at the same time, I think it's my responsibility to help him make decisions as a young adult, the best decisions, that he's not an insecure little boy anymore, that he is capable, very capable of making good decisions and getting the help he needs out there above and beyond me. And that's what he's done, which is, I'm really happy to hear that, because my earliest retirement date's in 4 years, so I may not be there at the school, right? But that doesn't mean we won't keep in touch. But it is hard. It's hard to make that change, that kind of switch over, and still be the support and the child and youth worker, but help him be the best that he can be as a young adult, and continue on his journey of struggling with those issues, which I still see surface from time to time. So it is.
I'm hearing that it's a journey. And
I'm always so happy. I've had about 10 students come to me this year saying they want to be a child and youth worker. And I'm so proud of that. I'm just like, whoa, that's so great, because where do they get that from? Where did they get the idea of being a child and youth worker, and why do they want to do that? And I'm so happy when I hear students saying that they want to be a child and youth worker,
so, your journey.
All right. My journey I consider very unique and special, because I've decided that it is. I don't meet a lot of others who have gone through it as well, and when I do, I really like connect with them. I was adopted from the Philippines, I guess, from the very beginning here, and I was taken care of by an adopted family, and they abused me, and I went into the group homes. I went to Peel Children's Aid Society at 8 years old, and at 12 years old I became a Crown Ward of the Children's Aid Society, and I was living with a foster family until I was about 18, and I went on extended care and maintenance till about 21, and I've been living on my own ever since. And the lifestyle that I had is still going on today, because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't like, I had no guide, I had no mentor to kind of show me the way in this kind of lifestyle, right? And so I was carving the path on my own, with the help of Miss Beacon, obviously, that helped me in my lifestyle. But I discovered that through my experiences that I was good working with people. I was good working with youths in particular, because I was able to connect with them. I was able to provide them. We use a word called scaffolding. I was able to give them knowledge and sort of like help them like elevate themselves, so that when they face those same kind of problems, it would help influence their decisions as well. And I always got feedback from them saying that, what you said really helped me out. And I really discovered that I was good at helping these people. So I wanted to align myself up with a career that I really enjoyed doing, and that can really benefit me in the long run. And I wanted to be just a simple social worker working for the Children's Aid Society. And then when I checked out the Child and Youth Worker program, I felt that description fit more with my character. It was more of a front line, working with the youths and teens, adolescents, adults, and families, and actually having that interaction with them, instead of just being the resource factor, seeing my clients once a month and that's it. I didn't want to be like that. And so on that pursuit of that career, I discovered advocating for youths. I discovered being a mentor, being a leader, being someone who can speak for them when they're unable to speak for themselves. And I discovered that it's not just in my local area, it's actually throughout the province. You know, I've done work with the Provincial Advocate's Office, and I discovered that there are 16,000 youths in care, and half of them are permanent wards. So this really expanded my horizons. It really broadened my 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 desire to help, and my passion for this. So I sort of made a vow to myself to help out these youths somehow, some way, and I think the beginning stage of that is to becoming a child and youth worker, and working with them one life at a time, I guess. You know.
I think one thing I've always done is try to give you, Leaf, the message that you can really do anything that you want to do, and it's hard work. And I use, when students come to me and say, "Oh, I can't do that; it's too hard," or, you know, I always use the example of myself when I graduated from George Brown, and it was a 2-year program back then, and my first placement was Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital in the Child and Adolescent Unit. And if it wasn't for my teacher at George Brown, I would not be sitting here, because that was a hard placement. I was 20 years old, working with really difficult, aggressive, first place I ever got hit by a kid. I was like, what am I doing here? Do I really want to do this? But anyway, he helped me get through that, and I kept going. But when I was in my 30s and I had my 3 young daughters, and I decided to go back to school to the Ryerson, the part-time degree program, and I was working full-time, and I was going downtown 2 nights a week, and I had my daughters and my husband, who pretty well helped me throughout that whole time. It took me 4 years part-time to get my degree, and that was hard. So when kids say to me, "Oh, I can't do this," I say, "You can do it. If I can do that, you can do this."